Shabbat Shalom. A few minutes ago, I've met Ruvik Rosenthal, just a few minutes ago. But my impression is that I have known you for a long time. And it reminds me of a former vice president of the WPJ who said, Rabbi Joel Osseron said, we Jewish people, we belong to one family. Sometimes, many times, often, a crazy family with a lot of mishugas, but still a family. So it's a great honor and pleasure to invite you, Professor Ruvik Rosenthal, to speak from our Bima. O professor Ruvik Rosenthal é escritor, jornalista, linguista israelense, professor da Universidade de Tel Aviv, com mais de 20 livros publicados, e o resto ele vai explicar.
Thank you very much. Well, it's an honor to speak to you. And I brought a present. I came yesterday from Israel after 45 years that I haven't been in Rio de Janeiro, and I swore that I'm going to be there again one day because for me it's the most beautiful city on earth. And I brought you a present, one of my books. It's called, in Hebrew, Medabrim Bisfat HaTanach, speaking in biblical Hebrew. It's called in the English name, Old Language, New Language. And I speak very briefly what I mean in this book, why I did write it. Because the Bible is the holy book. The Bible is the basis of Israel people. Without the Bible, the nation wouldn't survive because this was the textbook of all the generations. And without the Bible, the Hebrew language would have been forgotten, for sure. So when we came to the revival of Hebrew about 140 years ago, there was a big question. Can we revive a language that was not spoken in everyday life and in life, etc., only in text, only in religious ceremonies like today? Can it come back and be the language of the people, the language of the nation, and later the language of the state? And many people doubted it. But it was for sure that if the Israeli people are coming to the land of the Bible, they will speak the language of the Bible. But this was only the beginning, because the Bible is written in Hebrew, but it is an ancient Hebrew. It is hard to most of the Israelis who knows perfect Hebrew to read it, to understand it. So there was even claimed that it's a foreign language. If you want to understand it, like the Greek, the modern Greek have to study ancient Greek as a foreign language to understand Aristotle and Plato and all the other great people. You have to study also the language of the Bible as a foreign language. And more, there was no experience in the language history of the languages of the world, of the human history, that a language who stopped to be a living language and was only text language or language of studies or language of praise, like we pray today, come back and becomes a living language. It didn't happen ever, and it happens. It's not a miracle. It's part of the Jewish very special history. But my task, well, as Sergio said, I'm a writer and linguist, and most of my interest is writing and lecturing about Hebrew language to the audience, not only to experts, not only to linguists. And I wanted, as I'm sure by my understanding Hebrew and research of Hebrew, that it's not a foreign language, that you cannot understand anything about modern Hebrew without knowing and understanding the biblical Hebrew. So you have to make a bridge between the two languages, the biblical, the classic, and the modern. So what I try to do in this book, which I now give you, your community as a present, is to tell the readers, and many people read it and bought it, to tell them that this is the same language. But how is it the same language? And then I went through the language parts, the language apparatus, the language word, the lexicon, and show step by step that it is the same language. And the most interesting thing is, well, in the Bible there are only 8,000 words, which is really a very small lexicon. In Hebrew today, we have 80,000 words, which is 10 times double. But the most of the important words about everything, about our body, about a landscape, about feelings, etc., is taken from the Bible. Why? Because the Bible is telling the story about living people who are very similar to us today. So they didn't have aeroplanes, they didn't have cars, they even didn't have cell phones. Can you imagine? But the basic word, the way they looked, the way they felt, the way even they thought about life, about everything, these basic aspects of life was the same, us and them. And that's why we can use in our language so many words and phrases that are coming from the Bible. And 2/3 of the most common words in Hebrew are from the Bible. It's a biblical text. Though the syntax is a bit hard, the grammar is based on the Bible. Everything that is modern Hebrew is based on the Bible. And this is what I try to show in this book. And of course, modern Hebrew is spoken language now, so it changes like every spoken language. But it still is the same language. And I think today, when you sang, or I sang in my heart because I didn't know, well, Lecha Dodi has another tune in music in Hebrew, but yours are much better. As my wife said, this is a Brazilian version. It's more vivid, more lively. And the way that you sang it. And the feeling of you so far from Israel, in the other side of the world, singing in Hebrew, maybe not understanding every word, but singing this amazing psalms praise, the Tehillim, which is one of the books that I love so much because what is great about praise? It's speaking to somebody, well, to God, to a rabbi, to the loved ones. This is prayer. It's speaking to somebody. It's not something far from the human experience. So though the world, it's somehow can seem hard, it's the most simple book in the Bible because this is a prayer. And the feeling that you can pray, sing in Hebrew, tell the story that I try to establish in this book. It's the same language, and it's going from generation to generation, and it keeps us Reforms, Orthodox, seculars, it doesn't matter. It keeps us, as Sergio said, one family. So thank you very much.